You know, when people talk about heartbreak, they usually mean the kind that comes from love, from a man who left or a dream that slipped away. But let me tell you something, sweetheart. Nothing breaks a mother more than hearing her own child call her useless. My name is Eleanor Grace Williams, 76 years old, born in a small Ohio town where the winters are cold, but the people used to be warm. I've lived long enough to see black and white TVs turn into phones that talk back. But even after all these years, the memory of that day, the day my daughter looked me in the eyes and called me nothing, still cuts deeper than any knife. I can still see it clear as yesterday. The sunlight was coming through the kitchen window, soft and golden, lighting up the steam from the old kettle. I had made her favorite soup, chicken and corn chowder, the same way I did when she was little. Back then, she'd run to the table with her tiny pink bowl and say, "Mommy, make it extra creamy." But that day, she just sat there scrolling through her phone. Her face was cold, her tone colder. "Mom, you really don't have to cook anymore," she said. "You're too old for all this. Just relax or something." I smiled, trying to keep my voice steady. "Sweetheart, I love cooking for you. You've been so busy lately. It's the least I can do." She sighed. "That's the problem, Mom. You think you're helping, but you're not. You don't understand the world anymore. You're just..." A pause. I could see her jaw clench. And then she said it. "You're useless." My hands froze. The spoon dropped into the pot, splashing hot soup onto the counter. For a moment, I thought I'd misheard her. What did you just say?" I asked softly. She didn't even look up. "You heard me. You can't help me with work. You don't understand my life. You're just sitting here doing nothing. I'm tired of pretending you matter. Do you know what silence sounds like after words like that? It's heavy. It doesn't just fill the room, it fills your bones." I wanted to scream. I wanted to tell her how many nights I stayed awake rocking her through fevers, how many shoes I mended so she'd look pretty at school, how many times I went hungry so she could eat. But instead I just smiled weakly and whispered, "I'm sorry, sweetheart." She left the room, leaving her half-eaten soup behind. And that's when I realized, sometimes the people you raise can forget that you're human too. Tell me something, my dear. Have you ever done everything for someone, everything, and still been made to feel like you were nothing? If you've ever felt invisible to the ones you love, stay with me till the end of my story. 'Cause what happened next? It changed everything. The next few weeks were strange. She barely spoke to me. She worked from her laptop all day, barely glancing my way unless she needed something signed or cleaned. I'd hear her talking on the phone, laughing, confident, living her busy city life. And there I was, a ghost in my own home. One night, I overheard her telling someone, "I can't wait until Mom moves out. I need space. She's in the way." That night, I sat in bed and cried quietly. You see, I had moved in with her after my husband, God bless him, passed away 2 years ago. I thought she wanted me there. I thought she needed her mother. But I was wrong. She didn't need me. She was embarrassed by me. Still I stayed silent. Because mothers, we always forgive first. But then came the morning everything changed. I woke up early as usual, made breakfast, set the table. Then I heard a knock on the door. It was a man in a suit holding a clipboard. He looked uncomfortable when he spoke. "Mrs. Williams, your daughter asked me to drop these off. It's a lease agreement, for a retirement home. She's already made the deposit." My knees almost gave out. She was sending me away. When she came downstairs, I asked her, "You're putting me in a home?" She didn't even flinch. "It's not like that, Mom. Just better for both of us. You'll have people your age to talk to. You'll finally be useful again." Useful again. Those words burned inside me. I nodded slowly, pretending to agree. But deep down something inside me shifted. Because love can only take so much before it turns into something else. And for the first time in my life, I felt that something else stirring inside me. A quiet fire. I didn't say a word that day. I simply smiled, packed my things and left quietly. But as the cab pulled away from her driveway, I whispered under my breath. One day, my daughter. You'll need something only I can give. And that day would come sooner than she could ever imagine. I always thought the worst kind of loneliness was sitting in an empty house. But I was wrong. The worst kind of loneliness is sitting in a room full of people and realizing no one truly sees you. The retirement home was clean. Too clean, like someone was trying to scrub away the feeling of sadness that lingered in every corner. The walls smelled faintly of bleach and old flowers, and every smile from the staff felt like part of their job description. When I arrived, a young nurse named Claire greeted me. "Mrs. Williams, welcome to Golden Meadows. You're going to love it here." Her cheerfulness was too bright for the gray morning. I nodded politely. "Thank you, dear. Do you know where I'll be staying?" She guided me to a small room with a window facing the parking lot. One narrow bed, chair, a dresser. That was all. I stood there for a long while, just staring at the blank wall. 76 years of living. And that was what I had left. A room the size of my daughter's walk-in closet. The first few days were quiet. Kept to myself. Most of the residents either slept, stared at the television, or spoke in fragments of their old lives, like ghosts repeating memories they didn't want to forget. I met a woman named Rose, sharp as a needle even at 82. She leaned toward me one morning at breakfast and whispered, "New here, huh? You got the same look I had when my son dropped me off." I smiled sadly. "You mean the look of pretending you're fine?" She nodded. "Exactly that." Rose became my first real friend there. She had a laugh that reminded me of wind chimes and eyes that had seen too many goodbyes. And she told me something I never forgot. "Eleanor, sometimes life doesn't end when they throw you away. Sometimes that's when it begins again." I didn't understand her words then, but soon I would. One afternoon I sat by the window, watching cars pull into the parking lot. Every time one stopped, my heart skipped. Maybe it was her, maybe my daughter had come to visit. But days turned into weeks, and not once did she call or show up. I'd leave little voicemails, gentle reminders of love. "Hi, sweetheart. It's Mom. Just checking in. Hope you're eating okay." No response. One evening Claire, the young nurse, brought me a letter. "Looks like you got some mail, Mrs. Williams." My heart lifted. Maybe it was her. But when I opened it, my hands trembled. It wasn't from my daughter. It was from the bank. The letter said my house, my old home, had been sold. She'd done it. She sold it while I was gone. I felt the room spinning. Every flower I'd planted, every photo I'd hung, every piece of my husband's memory. Gone just like that. She hadn't just sent me away. She'd erased me. That night, I cried into my pillow until my chest ached. But between the sobs, a strange calm came over me. The kind that only comes when you've lost everything and have nothing left to fear. I whispered into the dark. "You took my home, my pride, and my peace. But you forgot one thing, my dear. You still carry my blood in your veins. And one day, you'll remember what that means." The next morning I woke up feeling different. Stronger. I started spending time with Claire and Rose, helping with small things, reading to the residents, fixing torn quilts, even organizing old letters. They started calling me Mama Eleanor. Funny, isn't it? The people who had no reason to love me treated me like family, while the one who should have loved me forgot I existed. But life has a strange way of turning pain into purpose. One afternoon, Claire came rushing into the dining hall, eyes wide. "Mrs. Williams," she said breathlessly, "you're not going to believe this. We're doing a community outreach program, a mentorship for young nurses. The hospital downtown wants volunteers who can share real stories of compassion." Something inside me stirred. Real stories of compassion. I had plenty of those. I smiled and said, "Count me in." That little decision, to speak, to share, to matter again, changed everything. Weeks passed, and I began teaching young nurses how to talk to elderly patients, how to listen when words fail, how to see the human behind the wrinkles. People started coming just to hear me talk. They'd call me Grandma Eleanor, and sit around me like children around a fire. I felt alive again, not because I was needed but because I was seen. And then one day fate came knocking. Literally. It was a cold Thursday morning. Rain tapped softly on the window when Claire walked in with a pale face. "Mrs. Williams. You have a visitor." My heart fluttered. After all those months, could it be her? The door opened slowly. And there she was. My daughter. Tears streaked her face. Her makeup was smudged, her hands trembling. But what caught my attention wasn't the guilt in her eyes. It was the desperation. "Mom," she whispered, her voice cracking. I need your help." I stared at her for a long time. The same woman who called me useless was now standing in front of me, broken, begging. I wanted to speak, but my throat tightened. So I just said softly, "What's wrong, sweetheart?" She looked down, clutching her stomach. Her lips quivered. "Mom, the doctors say I need a transplant. And you're the only match." For a few seconds I couldn't speak. Her words just hung in the air like a thunderstorm waiting to break. Transplant. My daughter, the same girl who once called me useless, was now standing before me, trembling, saying I was the only one who could save her life. I remember sitting very still, my hands folded in my lap. She couldn't look me in the eyes. She just kept whispering, "Please, Mom." I didn't know who else to turn to. It's strange how life works, isn't it? Sometimes the same mouth that wounds you ends up begging you to heal it. I didn't know what to feel. Part of me wanted to run to her, hold her like when she was little and scraped her knee. But another part, the part that had spent sleepless nights crying in that lonely retirement room, wanted to ask, "Now you remember I exist?" I took a deep breath and asked quietly, "When did you find out?" "Last month," she said. "I've been on the waiting list, but the doctors say you're my only chance." Her voice cracked. "Please, Mom. I'm scared." Those words broke something inside me. Because no matter what she'd done, hearing your child say, "I'm scared," it reaches a place in your soul no one else can touch. I looked at her, pale, desperate, fragile, and for a moment I didn't see the cold woman who'd thrown me out. I saw my little girl again. The one who used to draw me pictures and write, "I love you, Mommy," in crayon. But pain has a memory, and mine whispered loudly, "Remember how she made you feel worthless. Remember how she sold your home." I turned to the window, trying to calm my heart. The rain had stopped. Outside, the gray clouds were breaking, letting a little sunlight through. And I thought maybe that's God giving me a sign. She sat beside me, crying silently. "I know I don't deserve your help," she said. "I've been a terrible daughter. I was selfish. I thought I didn't need anyone. But I was wrong. I need you, Mom. Please." Silence again. Only the ticking clock between us, counting the seconds of her guilt. I finally whispered, "Do you know what hurts the most, sweetheart? It's not that you left me in that home. It's that you made me believe I didn't matter." Her shoulders shook. "I'm sorry, Mom. I swear I didn't mean it." "But you did," I interrupted softly. "You meant every word. And I believed you. I stopped believing in myself because of you." She lowered her head, sobbing. For a long while I just looked at her. My daughter, the same person who had destroyed me. And yet the one person I still loved more than my own breath. And that's when I realized something. Forgiveness isn't weakness. It's the last act of love a mother gives, even when the world says she shouldn't. I stood up, walked to her, and gently lifted her chin. "Look at me," I said. Her eyes met mine, wet and red. "I will help you," I whispered. "Not because you deserve it, but because I am your mother. And a mother's love isn't earned. It's given." She broke down completely, falling into my arms. And for the first time in years we held each other. Not as strangers, not as enemies, but as two souls who had both been lost. The next few weeks were a blur of hospital visits, tests, and consultations. The doctors confirmed it. I was the perfect match. They explained the risks, the surgery, the recovery, the strain on my heart. But I didn't hesitate once. Claire, my nurse friend, held my hand before the operation and said, "Are you sure, Mrs. Williams?" After everything she did. I smiled faintly. Sometimes love isn't about what they deserve, Claire. It's about who you are. She nodded with tears in her eyes. You're stronger than anyone I've ever met. Lying on that hospital bed before the surgery, I closed my eyes and whispered a small prayer. Lord, if this is my last chance to make things right, let her live a life worth the pain she caused. When I woke up after the operation, everything was white. Lights, walls, sheets. My body felt heavy, weak. But my heart was strangely light. I had done it. I had given her another chance. Days passed. She began to recover, slowly but surely. She visited me every day, this time with real tears, real words. Mom, I'll never forget what you've done for me, she said one morning, holding my hand tightly. You gave me life twice. Smiled. That's what mothers do, sweetheart. But deep down I knew something she didn't. The doctors had told me before the surgery that there was a chance, a small but real chance, that my body might not handle the procedure well because of my age. But I never told her that. She didn't need to know. Some truths are better carried silently. I began to feel weaker as the weeks went on. My heart was slower, my breath shorter. But I'd look at her, vibrant, alive, laughing again, and it filled me with peace. Still, there was one thing left to say. One truth she needed to hear before it was too late. I called her one evening as the sun dipped below the window. She rushed to my bedside, worried. Mom, what's wrong? I smiled faintly. Nothing, dear. I just wanted to tell you a story. She frowned. A story? Now? Yes, I whispered. About a little girl who once called her mother useless, and how that mother gave her everything anyway, even when it cost her everything. She began to cry again. Mom, please don't say that. But I held her hand and said softly, one day you'll understand what true love is. It's not about who's right or wrong. It's about who stays when no one else will. She nodded, her tears falling onto my hand. I love you, Mom, she whispered. And for the first time in a long time I believed her. They say time heals all wounds. But I've learned that some wounds don't heal, they just learn to live quietly inside you. After the surgery, the doctors said the transplant was a success. My daughter recovered quickly. But I didn't. My body was slowing down and I could feel it. My hands trembled more than before. My breath grew shorter, and every morning felt heavier than the last. Still, I smiled through it all, because every time I saw her walk into my hospital room, alive, breathing, living, it made every ache worth it. She started visiting often. She'd bring me flowers, sit beside my bed, and read me articles from her phone. She'd say things like, Mom, I don't know how to thank you, or, I wish I could take back everything I said. And I'd always reply the same way. Don't thank me, darling. Just live kindly. That's all I ask. But deep down I knew something was happening to me. Something I couldn't stop. One night Claire, my nurse, came to check on me. She held my hand gently and whispered, Your heart's getting weaker, Eleanor. I nodded. I know, dear. It's just doing what hearts do after they've loved too much. We both laughed softly, but she cried a little too. My daughter didn't know. I didn't want her to. I wanted her last memory of me to be one of strength, not weakness. A few weeks later, she came to see me looking different. Softer. Changed. Mom, she said, I quit my job. And blinked. You what? She laughed through tears. Yeah. I realized I was chasing things that didn't matter. I want to be there for you now. I want to take care of you. For the first time, I saw in her eyes what I'd been waiting to see all along, love. Real love. Not the kind that speaks, but the kind that shows. She started staying at the nursing home with me every weekend, bringing homemade food, decorating my room with old pictures of us. Birthdays, holidays, messy little moments that once filled our house with laughter. And every time she'd leave, she'd hug me tight and whisper, I love you, Mom. I'll see you tomorrow. But somewhere deep inside, I knew I might not see tomorrow. That night, as the rain whispered softly outside, I sat by the window, watching the faint city lights. I thought about my husband, about our small house, about all the years I'd spent loving, forgiving, and hoping. And I smiled. Because despite everything, the pain, the betrayal, the loneliness, I'd lived a life full of love. I looked up at the ceiling and whispered, "Thank you, Lord, for giving me the chance to teach her before it was too late." Then, I picked up a small envelope I'd written weeks earlier. On the front, I had written her name in shaky letters. Inside there was a note, my final gift. It said, "My sweet girl. If you're reading this, it means I'm finally home again. Not the one you sent me to, but the one where your father is waiting for me. I want you to remember something. The world will make you believe that strength is about power, money, or independence. But real strength is kindness. You once called me useless. But my love for you, the love that gave you life twice, that was my greatest use of all. Forgive yourself, darling. Don't let guilt chain you. Just live with love the way I tried to." I placed that note in the drawer beside my bed, smiled, and whispered, "Good night, my little girl." The next morning when Claire came in, she found me sitting peacefully by the window, my head resting gently against the pillow, gone but smiling. They said it looked like I fell asleep watching the sunrise. Maybe I did. Or maybe I was just watching over her one last time. A week later, my daughter held my letter at my funeral. She cried like I'd never seen her cry before. She told everyone, "My mother wasn't useless. She was my miracle." Afterward, she visited the nursing home often, not as a daughter anymore, but as a volunteer. She'd bring food, blankets, and laughter to the people forgotten by the world. And sometimes, I like to imagine her sitting in the same chair I once did, telling another lonely woman, "You matter more than you know." Because that's what this story was never really about, revenge or regret. It was about remembrance. Remembering that love, no matter how broken or bruised, always finds a way to heal. And if you're listening to me now, my dear, if you've ever felt unwanted, unseen, or unloved, remember this. You're never useless. You're someone's reason to keep going. You're someone's miracle waiting to happen. Oh, tell me, if the person who once broke your heart came back, asking for help, would you forgive them? Or would you walk away? Because forgiveness, it doesn't change the past, but it just might save your soul.